welcome, Jamie. How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on, Adam.
Awesome. No, welcome to the Talent Insight podcast, mate. It's good. It's awesome to have you on. Really keen to get your kind of insights. We've got various different sort of topics we're going to talk about. You've got an interesting kind of background. So give us a kind of, for the listeners, give us a kind of background, obviously, where it all started for you and that journey to where you are today, mate.
Yeah, awesome. I guess for me, I was born, grew up in Sydney, started working in IT recruitment in 2022. Ended up leaving to kind of explore more of the AI automation space. Worked with some influencers helping monetize their audience, Alfie Gets Hard and Elastaboy on Instagram. Awesome guys. And then met my co-founder Jude in Bali and then went all in DiscoverX together. And yeah, pretty much it.
And what was the reason for you jumping into recruitment at the time? Was it just kind of like everyone else, kind of fall into it?
Yeah, so it was actually my football coach, Paul O'Shaughnessy,
Oh yeah,
just gave me an opportunity in IT recruitment, and yeah, it was a great time.
yeah,
I loved it there, and I just think the
yeah,
thing for me, I was just young, and I was like, look, I kind of want to give it a crack at doing my own thing while I can.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of what led
I
me.
think yeah, I've been in recruitment since like 2005. So I was when I got into it, I was young, but yeah, not so much now. But in terms of it kind of sets you up with various different ways. Like that kind of, I don't think you get rejected as much as you do in recruitment when you, especially on the business development side, the business development aspect. So kind of would imagine that's kind of set you up with the like your role that you're doing, like your co-founder that you're doing now in terms of like
Mm.
approaching other organizations. Have you found that that kind of recruitment aspect has helped you in some way?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like, I guess, yeah, like everyone says, being okay with that rejection. But I think with like being young as well, if you get that in from a young age, you don't really think too weird of it. Because I guess
Mm,
if you go to uni, like everyone's kind of like telling you like you're the man, you're the man. But then as soon as you get
mm,
out of uni, it's like if you can't provide value, you're useless. So it's like
yeah.
trying to learn that as quick as possible.
Yeah,
The recruitment. So how did you land into recruitment? Like
I
how
did.
did you?
So yeah, for me, so when I got into recruitment, it was in back in 2005, and I was in banking at the time, and I only got into banking because uh, before I got into that, I was 19, I think, when I got into banking, or 20 when I got into banking, and it was the first kind of career move for me. And I wanted, like, for me, what I thought I needed was like going into a big corporate business and kind of progressing through the ranks because before that I was doing kind of bar work, I was working in shops and all kinds of, not really a career move. And then I
Yeah.
had, through that period of time, I was at the bank for like 5, 6 years. And then I had friends that were in recruitment and making a lot of money. And it was purely on
Uh,
the basis that they were making money. That was my reason for getting into recruitment at the time. Um,
yeah.
and then, and it kind of progressed from there. So I've been in recruitment in some shape or form since then, and then kind of set up on my own at some point. I went back on the internal side, and it's but over those years, I kind of realised that it wasn't just about the money. And I think if you can make money and still be a good person at the same time. It's just rather than
Yeah.
you're placing people at the end of the day, and it's their careers, and kind of keeping that kind of having those values in mind throughout. And I think that's probably the reason why I've kind of stuck at it and been quite successful at it. Where
Yeah.
it's not sometimes I think, especially with the way, and I think we're going to talk about the current, like the recruitment model a little bit later, in terms of like it being kind of, because it's very money driven and it's basically you're getting paid per placement. I think the kind of the sometimes it can be missed, and you're putting people into, some recruiters can be putting people
Yeah.
into roles that not
I agree.
necessarily are right, and that doesn't sit well with the way I work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's say for me, it was I basically got into it purposely because I had friends that were already doing it.
Mm. I think, yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it can definitely incentivize the wrong behavior because at the end
Mm.
of the day, it's traditional contingent recruitment, you're only
Yeah.
getting paid when you make a placement. So it's like you're 100%,
Yeah.
incentivized to make that placement at all cost. And then
Yeah.
every recruiter is going to say, I'm relationship based and whatnot. But I was
Yeah.
curious, what do you reckon? What's your kind of, because obviously you do have a unique business model. You have a different kind of selling point, hey, than just
Yeah.
traditional.
Yeah,
relationship
yeah, yeah.
focused?
So basically for me, so because I've done the last 6 years being internal, I've seen it on the other side. So when you go through, when you're in recruitment agency world, the view is that typically those that go internal from agency are the failed recruiters, and it's
Heard
not
that,
until
yeah.
you go on the inside you kind of realize that it's actually not true. And there's a lot more that goes into that kind of role than you probably meets the eye when you're actually on the external side.
Mm.
And probably the agency recruiters see the talent acquisition as more of a blocker than kind of it, because basically they're there batting them away type of thing. But as there's definitely, even if you've got talent team, I still think there's a place for a recruiter. However, my business model, in answer to your question, is basically because I've got the agency side and the internal talent side now, where I've been for the last 6 years leading teams and building processes, interview, hiring manager interview training, as well as being very much hands-on with the recruitment, is I go into now businesses and help them if they like on the embedded side, or if they need talent advisory. And then on the other side of it is actually if there's a company that's got like one or two hard to fill roles, I would typically help them out with that. And being able to, and the good thing about being on the internal talent side is there's not many roles that you can't turn your hand to,
Yeah.
because you kind of quickly learn. There's like I said, there's a few technical roles that you probably want to get a specialist in for, but there's
Mm.
for me, like if I look at the role that I'm doing at the moment, like I'm in with on the embedded model with Leica at the moment, and I've just hired like food technologists or a manufacturing supervisor that I've never touched before, but I've been able to go in and kind of turn that around quite quickly for them. So yes, it's a unique model in some ways. There's some good businesses out there doing what I'm doing at the moment, but like I say, it's different to that typical kind of contingent recruiter, which is what I didn't really want to go back to.
How does your selling change from like being an agent, obviously representing a company, rather than actually just representing the company itself? Like, is that a different selling? Do you speak to candidates different?
Yeah, you do. Well, you do because you can be a little bit more passionate about the journey that you're on in that particular business. So what's different there is that. So I did. It's funny. I did a video the other day just on this in terms of the difference between an internal talent person and actually a recruiter. And the three biggest things for me is that there's one is when you've got a stakeholder, a difficult stakeholder, there's no kind of running away from that particular person. Like in agency world, you'd put it down as a bad client and you'd walk away. You can't
Yeah.
do that when you're internal. You've got to work out a way of actually building that relationship, and actually coming to a good result for the business.
Yeah.
The other thing is that what you tend to find is that from a candidate perspective, they're a lot more receptive to you and actually more likely to respond to you than someone from an agency, because you're representing a number of different companies with an agency, whereas I could call a company now being on site with Leica, for instance, and I can actually quite passionately talk about the mission, the values, what the culture's like, and the type of person that we're looking for. Whereas from an agency side, you probably wouldn't get that much insight because they're not on site. As much as they like to think that they know the company, I don't think you could truly get in there, get that much information from it.
100%, I agree.
And then there's a. But yeah, those are the main. For me, those are the main things that I would say are the difference from a talent perspective, being internal to agency.
Yeah. No, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of like for you, mate, what's your business model at the moment? So it's DiscoverX, that's the business. You're the co-founder.
Yeah.
So where did that all come from? How did you start that, mate?
Yeah, so I knew Jude, so who's my other co-founder, like for years, ever since even when I
Mm,
was in recruitment, he was always in the AI space, like showing me stuff. And one of the last placements I made in my recruitment role, actually, like he helped me do some AI automation and sourcing it. So I
mm,
guess I was always intrigued by it, but we randomly were both in Bali at the same time, and I'd never met him in person. I was working with these influencers at the time, so that's where we came together. And I was kind of doing both, but you know how it is. You just got to focus on one thing, like because you're going to be
yep.
competing with people who are all in. So went all in with DiscoverX. So our business model with recruiters, which we are pivoting away from, which I'll get into in a sec, but it's just implementing an infrastructure to enable recruiters to be higher leverage. So automating
Mm,
front end tasks like building candidate lists or building BD lists, and then actually doing that initial outreach,
yep.
making it personalized and make it look like the recruiter's doing it so they can spend their time on higher leverage tasks like speaking to candidates or clients.
Yep.
Yeah, so implemented that infrastructure for 15 Australian recruitment businesses, got the best results in candidate short markets. So that's going to be like medical, financial companies where we're sourcing candidates. Also worked on
Mm,
the BD side, but we just
yep.
kind of saw that like a lot less people are like receptive to talk with recruiters. And if you've just got a standard contingent offer, like it's just such a hard sell. No matter how much
Mm.
automation or marketing, it's like, yeah, I don't know, just a lot of people don't like it as much anymore. So
Yeah, it's definitely saturated in the kind of that old contingent recruitment model. I think now is you need to really offer something completely different or above and beyond just making that placement, I think.
exactly. If you're, from what I've seen, and I guess how we're positioning ourselves for these internal businesses is like, if you're just providing, let's say, three candidates on a short list
Yep.
and putting a price tag behind all of them, like that is just like, just not very valuable, especially
Mm.
nowadays where data is so easily accessible. Like if you have a huge database and a huge CRM, that's no
Mm.
longer like a huge competitive advantage anymore because a lot of this information and data is
Yep.
publicly available. So it's like, yeah, I just don't really see that contingent model
Mm.
um, lasting much longer. So I guess
No.
that's why we're positioned where we are, where we would be like a partner for these companies direct, building an
Mm.
infrastructure where they get to keep all the data and be able to
Yep.
headhunt the candidates. And yeah, and obviously at a fraction of the price.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
talk me through how does it work, mate? What's the how does the platform work? What's the approach that it takes, and how do you make it sort of personal to like each person that's actually using the platform?
Yeah. So I guess a good example is company in Brisbane called My Local Doc. They use our system. So what it does for them, they buy clinics. So they'll acquire clinics and just fill them up with doctors. Now, what the system will do is constantly reach out to doctors and start relationships with them. So a lot of
Mm.
their messaging and automation outreach is nothing hard sell. It's just like, look, here's what we do. We have these roles, looking to expand our network. So they're able to just constantly be in contact with doctors, have conversations with them, get replies, and then be able to hold that entire database. So, for example, one of their positions was for one of their clinics. Our system reached out to 238 qualified doctors, so pre-qualifies them based on all the information you can find online. Now,
Yep.
27 of them replied, and 12 of them were interested in the role. Now, obviously, only one could be placed for the role, but
Yep.
they get the placement and then they get to keep all that data as well. So when they come to hire for another similar role, they have all that data. They've already engaged with those doctors and haven't, pissed anyone off. They're like, look, here's the
Yep.
opportunity to stay in touch. So then they can then use that again rather than having to pay, let's say,
Yep.
30K per doctor fee, because
Yep.
that's very expensive with recruiters. So
Yep.
that's, yeah, I guess that's kind of just a live example of how it works.
Yeah, awesome. And in terms of like the outreach, is that through? Can it be through various platforms, or is that just through kind of email approach?
Yeah, so we run a multi-touch point outbound. So
Yep.
email, SMS, and then also voicemail drop. And
Okay.
also we have added in LinkedIn as well. But
Yep.
all we're really trying to do is just show these candidates and like just that the company cares for them. Like, look,
Yeah.
makes it look like you've sat down, you've wrote them an email that's personalized to them, you've had a look at their profile, you've tried to give them a call, you've left them a voicemail, and you've sent them an SMS, right? Just trying
Yep.
to get a reply. And once the reply's there, all the automation turns off because that's all
Yep.
we're optimizing for. Obviously, speaking to qualified candidates, starting a relationship, and then allowing the business to do what they do best, right?
Yeah, perfect. And in terms of like the communication, is whoever obviously the business that you're is utilizing the platform, would they be
Mhm.
building out what that contact looks like the each touch point, or is that automated as well?
Yeah, so we with our business model, when we implement the system, we do it
Yep.
with them to begin with. And the reason is because we want them bought in with the software
Mm.
so they'll use it long term. So rather
Yep.
than them just buying the software and figuring it all out themselves, we actually want to come in, get a proof of concept with them, show how valuable it is, and then they'll stick around. So like you said, so let's say if we're going to partner with a medical company, we're obviously going to rely on their expertise, their language. They know what these doctors want to hear. They know how to
Yep.
speak to them. We're the vehicle for that message to get to them. Now, obviously, we can still give our 2 cents on what works well in cold outbound, how to get replies, and what's worked in the past. But it
Yep.
is definitely leaning on their expertise, doing it with them, getting the results, and then they run it long term.
Yep. All right,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. And you said that you going from the typical from the agent. So you started out obviously on the agency route, but now going
Yeah.
more kind of B2B. So
Yeah.
what's the reason behind that, and what's the sort of vision
Yeah.
there?
Well, I guess the main reason was like when we were running it for recruiters, it was like it was just like they were just using our system, which is good. Like we wanted that. But then we were like, oh, then they would just, each candidate they were selling in for like 25K. So we were like, why not just directly give it to the business rather than the recruiter? And also, we're just seeing, my opinion is that contingent model that we speak about is kind of dying. So it's like we were kind of feeding off the crumbs of a dying market, and we were like,
Mm.
just didn't see a lot of long-term opportunity. So
Yeah.
we wanted to go straight to the business and yeah, just sell directly.
So is that going to be targeted towards companies who have got a talent team that are actually proactively outreaching these candidates?
Yeah, yeah, works best
Yeah.
with the talent because obviously at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you're still going to need someone to actually pick up the phone, speak to the candidate, and sell the
Yep.
company. We're not going
Yeah.
to sit here and pretend we'll send one message and they're like, "Oh, let me sign up for your business tomorrow," right? So
Yep.
it does work best with internal teams that just want to empower that outreach, reach more people, and and yeah, that's the idea there.
Where do you get the data from, mate? Like in terms of the candidates, where does it scrape those from?
Yeah, so as of now, we are in the process of building out like our own kind of enrichment tools, but we use predominantly Clay. And the
Yeah.
way Clay works, it just goes to source for data. So platforms like ZoomInfo, Apollo, Lusher, they use a lot of
Yep.
data providers, and that's what Clay does. So it can put all of them together. Let's say if I was getting your number, it would
Yep.
search first platform. If can't find it, the next. Just it's called a waterfall and style enrichment,
Yep. Okay.
which is, I guess, that competitive advantage that's going. I think
Yep.
companies with massive databases now they might have some good personal information, but in terms of contact details, information about that person, like anyone can get that nowadays.
Or they'd be utilizing one platform, so they'd probably just use Apollo, for instance, or
Exactly
Zoom
right.
Info for another one, because obviously they're quite costly individually. But whereas Clay would be collating all of them together, yeah.
What do you use?
So a Signal Hire I've used, and also Apollo
Yeah.
as well. And Apollo's I'm only on a trial at the moment, but that's one that I'm kind of I'll probably be looking at more so because it's got the automated option on there as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess the downside of Clay, it's not very like user friendly. Like you've got to have a
Mm.
bit of a technical understanding to
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
Which yeah, which is
Which is why
tricky.
that's why you'd sort of get involved early on. I'd take it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But ideally, in a dream world with our platform, we just want to make it so easy for the internal teams even as well, so that they don't need any AI experience. That it's just simply come on, prompt exactly what you're looking for, get a
Mm.
pre-qualified list, and be able to reach out to them and just speak
Yep.
to the ones interested.
Yeah. Awesome. So how did you get into the AI side, mate? Because like it's let's say it's a minefield out there, and like there's so many different platforms and there's so many different ideas. Like where did you first like, not get the idea, but where did you kind of become so comfortable with kind of the AI world and space?
I mean, I think where we came comfortable was, and yeah, like getting into it was just not trying to do everything. Because I think where you get powerful with AI is when you just really focus on one application. Like, I can't really talk about how AI affects all these other stuff, but I can kind of talk about
Mm.
how it affects recruiters and the best way to use it because we just focused on that and just did that. So I think from doing the same thing, working in recruitment, then working with 15 recruitment agencies and just niching down to that has kind of
Mm.
been like, okay, we've kind of got a grasp on how we can use AI just for recruitment, right? So if I try
Yeah.
to use it in the real estate niche or anything else, I'd have had no idea. So I think
Yeah.
the specialization probably helped a
Yeah,
bit.
that's a good idea. Yeah, awesome. And so obviously you mentioned earlier, mate, in terms of the contingent model being
Mm.
broken. What do you like? What do you see as that? What's the reason that that's kind of broken and kind of it's still happening. And there's still a lot of recruiters out there, successful
100%.
recruiters out there doing that kind of model. But what do you think is needs to be fixed, or from what you've
Yeah.
seen out there?
So, so I think generalist contingency recruiters, where they're just whatever role they can get, they're going to run searches and try and
Mm.
find that. I think that will die because
Yep.
if you're just providing, let's say, three candidates and and that's it, right? And no other value. I just don't see that being as valuable anymore because all this data is accessible. Now, if you're
Yeah.
specialized in one area and like you understand that industry really well, I don't think all those recruiters on contingency model will
Yeah.
die. But yeah, I just think need to provide more value than just three candidates and not letting them keep the database when all that information
Yeah.
is accessible. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I think
Do you agree with
I
that?
think
Do you
you're
feel
right.
like?
I think you're bang on. I think you're exactly right. And I think also now with the where we are with AI, I actually think that there's a need now, even for the simplest of roles. If you're just the person doing it, that's where your role's probably more at risk. Whereas you've got to bring a lot more to the table and being more specialized, being like, for instance, rather than just from a recruitment perspective, rather than just going into a business and filling roles, you're actually looking at, right, I can build out your hiring process. I can, like,
Mm,
you're actually doing a lot more rather than just right, let me just fill this role. Because I do think from a recruitment perspective, that is the area that's probably more at risk than the ones that are a little bit more strategic, can actually offer a lot more.
100%, which I like what you're doing. Like you're also building a business asset into that business that's going to
Yeah.
last more than just the candidate you're bringing in,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, me and Jude, obviously, we did a lot of research when we decided to make our pivot. Like from the numbers we found, 71% of companies are moving away from recruiters, and 79% of companies are looking to grow their internal team. So it's like
Yeah.
companies are being like, look, we want to focus in-house
Yeah.
because we're going to care more about most about the talent because it's our company.
Yeah.
So like if you can empower that like you're doing, helping
Yeah.
them build that out, and then I guess with us trying to give them more business assets and infrastructure and data to keep, I feel
Yeah.
like that's just the way to go in my opinion for now.
Yeah, I think so, especially in that startup space, because for me, like the reason that I went, so I in the last two talent roles where I worked for someone, I was made redundant. So in both companies, we went through a massive growth phase, and then all of a sudden, hiring drops, and you're the first person out. Well,
Yeah.
the first time I was made redundant, I was probably the last person within talent out, which I appreciated. But in terms of like, it's typically the talent team that's looked at first. So the
Yeah.
reason for my model was more so going into these smaller scaling business, or either those that are going that can't afford a talent person, and they
Mm.
need someone to come in and look at the overall process, hiring, everything else, or they've got an existing talent team, as the company that I'm working with at the moment, they've got a talent team in place, but they're going through dramatic growth, and then
Mm.
looking at kind of broader projects across the business as well. So there's two kind of areas that I could potentially help with, but that's typically would be a company that can't afford to have a talent person in place. Because then what happens is they risk, like I went through twice, is you bring someone on a permanent level, you go through all this hiring, you don't hit your budget, and then you need to get rid of people, and that's the reason. Like, now I could go into a business and I'm not really at risk of kind of redundancy. I'm going in short term, fixing a problem, and going out to the next, and still maintaining that relationship. So I think
Nice.
there's definitely something there in terms of like the model changing, and you see there's businesses out there that kind of were more of a recruiter that have leaned in more on the embedded talent model or the RPO model as well.
Yeah. When you left your role, what did you think straight away that's what you wanted to do, or what was your kind of
It's always been in the back of my mind. Like, so I when I was at when I was hired in to ship it, they had a company called Lab 17 in that they offer the embedded model. So they basically go in, build out all the processes, and actually then hire the talent team to come in and take over. So that was the first time I was aware of that particular kind of model. So in my mind, I was quite like that. But it was more so from the redundancy aspect that kind of triggered it for me, where I was like, well, if I'm going into these companies and we go through this scanning and we're going through all this growth, like, they probably don't need someone full-time permanent for 2-3 years like I was, but whereas they probably just need someone short-term fixing the problem that they've got at the moment, building out the processes, and then I can move on to something else. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a less risk for me, like going in rather than going for another permanent role with the you kind of having the in the back of your mind, am I going to get made redundant when hiring slows down?
Yeah.
Because I've got for me, I don't want to go into a corporate business either. So
Mm.
like, I like that startup scale up feel. So going into, if I go to more of a corporate company, I'm probably less likely to get made redundant because it's just continuous flow of recruitment. It's a little slower, whereas
Yeah.
the startup scale up world is probably a little bit more risky,
Yeah,
which is
100%.
probably what attracts me to it as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. I guess how will you go about, I guess, like attracting other companies? Because obviously you have an awesome proof of concept with the company you're with currently. So in the
Yeah,
future, new clients, how will that kind of look for you?
it's kind of once coming to it. So I'm at a stage at the moment where I've kind of need to think about the model. My
Mm.
idea is to actually scale it, so I have other people can actually go into other talent professionals going into these organizations, but
Nice.
really not just your typical junior talent partner. It'd be what the way I'm thinking is having someone similar kind of level where like they go in and they can actually do what I'm doing. Where yes, they could be hands on with the hiring, but also look at fixing the broader sort of projects around the business with the interview training, the process improvement, those sort of being able to identify that and actually be able to implement it. So
Yeah.
it's I've got to give some thinking. But in answer to your question, like it's basically just getting on the phone and building relationships and reach out, and the contacts that I've made over the years is being able to lean on those and kind of and putting yourself out there as well. Like say there's a reason why I'm doing like the video content, the podcast. It's
Mm.
kind of like putting your brand out there and people knowing what you're there to do and kind of building your own personal brand. I think is important, and then it makes it that a little easier when you're doing that initial sort of outreach because hopefully they'll know who you are and what you do.
100%. And yeah, like we
Yeah,
were talking about this the other day with personal brand, it actually is just like so valuable. Obviously, it's sometimes hard
yeah,
to obviously put yourself out there, but it's like it's free. It's like entering the lottery every time you post. Like you never know
yeah.
who's gonna view it and just
Well, the way I see it, mate, and again with AI, like that's one thing that AI can't do is that your kind of personal brand, like well, that's you, that's me on the video, that's me doing the interviews. It's kind of that's one thing that AI is never going to be able to take away.
yeah.
And I think the people that actually put themselves out there now are the ones that will get ahead and
Yeah.
will probably be less affected.
Definitely. And with that content as well, I definitely agree. Like obviously AI can definitely help with content. Like I've had ChatGPT help with my posts, but I gotta say, we were talking about this, the best post is something that you can't actually Google online and
That's
you
what we're
can't
talking
use
about.
AI because that's what people want to see, right? Like if
Yep,
you say top five recruitment tips, it's like you can Google that or use AI, but it's like when it's something personable or just
yeah,
about you that no one else can say,
yep.
that's killer.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly right. So in terms of like from your experience and now doing what you're doing and what you're seeing in the market, where do you see the future of hiring going, mate? What's your sort of thought process there?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it will really just be in-house
Yeah,
predominantly. Now, I think, um, companies will get help elsewhere, but not just going to be just give me three candidates. It's going to
mm,
need to be more. And that's kind of with us. Like, even when we worked with the recruiters, we were on the same model. Like, we weren't hanging around like a marketing agency. Like, no, we were in there to build an infrastructure, release it, get proof of concept, and allow them to use that asset long term. That's the same thing we do with the businesses we partner with. Like
mm,
build it in, make sure it's working. We actually go hands on, get them bought
yep,
in with it. And then from there, like obviously they have support if they want to run it, but we want to empower them and upskill them as well.
yep,
That's just like with anything now, right? Like even let's say if you're an SDR, like obviously you're still going to do sales, but your company's probably going to give you some more AI tools and things of that nature to upskill you and make you more efficient. So that's what we're trying to do with these internal businesses with their hiring processes.
yep. Yeah, and I think that's right. And I think that kind of you need to kind of embrace AI. Like I think when we spoke last week on the phone, I think like there's I've been using various different tools, AI tools, and looking at ways to improve my day to day, so it actually makes me sort of perform better. There's a lot you can get real deep into some of the noise. I think there's a lot out there, but there's definitely a lot of rubbish out there at the moment. And being
100%.
able to utilize, like trying to identify which ones are worth you carrying, like actually carrying on. So if I will, like for instance, for me, the one that I really like at the moment is I use MetaView for note taking on
Nice.
candidate interviews. So, or even you can use them for client meetings as well. But it allows you to record notes on in video form, in person, or actually on the phone as
In
well.
person. Wow.
Yeah, so you basically in person would be you join them. You can join like you can set up a Teams. You join the meeting on your phone and just leave the phone on the desk, and it'll just
Yeah.
it actually take the notes from the meeting. But what it
Start showing
also
up with
does,
a wire. Start showing up to meetings with a wire on and like you're a secret agent.
Yeah, but it's but the other but the what it also does in the background, so you'll get a notification when the notes are ready for you, but you can
Right.
actually build out templates in the background to say, for instance, if it's for a specific role for a particular company, and you had a template for that particular role, the questions that you wanted to ask, it will automatically put those notes into those categories for you, so that
Right.
you just basically just transfer that into your ATS. Now, tools like that, that will free up your time to be doing other things in the business. Like
Mm.
that's the sort of things that I want to be looking at and implementing. And those are
And
the sort of things you need to be considering recruitment in the recruitment space, that's going to free you up, especially if you were an agency recruiter and you could free up your time from pure admin, that gives you that free time to actually be looking at business development or other areas of your recruitment position. That's where you want to be utilizing AI. I think personally, anyway.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like at the end of the day, like no AI is going to be able to replace like business development. Like it's like you said, being able to do lower leverage tasks, like simple admin tasks, so you
Yep.
can focus on the higher leverage
Yep.
tasks.
Yep.
Um, which is exactly what we've wanted to set out to. Like
Yep.
and when we work with recruiters, we're not like, look, we're going to send one message to a hiring manager and they're going to say, send me your terms and all this stuff. It's like, no, it's just to start the relationship, right? We can get you your message in front of the right person, but we're not going to win you business. We're not going
No.
to win you candidates. It's just, we can,
Because even with the tool that you've got, like you still need to get on that phone eventually. Like
I'm,
it's like you can do all this in the background and building
yeah,
that relationship or letting them know that you're there. But at the end of the day, like that relationship isn't going to go anywhere until you either meet them in person or have a conversation. You know.
What's your thoughts on like those because I've never seen one that I thought is good, but the calling AI ones, like do you ever think that will be a thing? Like that's
It's getting better. It's getting better. I've looked at the video AI ones, where you can actually put an avatar and it looks like you with the video, the voiceover.
yeah.
Those are pretty getting closer and closer. The call one, I just don't think. I don't know. I just can't imagine it being personal. Like for it to be like a where you're calling someone out the blue or taking a call. I just think it's still losing that personal
Deceiving.
like.
It's like
Yeah,
deceiving.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So yeah, I can't. I'd hope we didn't catch on to get to go that far, but because I
Yeah.
still think the whole point and the differentiator between us and like AI would be that personal interaction, being
Mm.
able to build that relationship and the empathy and everything else that comes with that. I think that's the differentiator. So I'd hope it doesn't go down that route.
100.
Yeah, yeah,
By then we'll have AI girlfriends, AI partners, bro. That's terrible.
mate. Yeah. So in terms of like, if you could like implement one change in like the recruitment industry today, mate, like what would that be for you? Like, what would be you thinking behind it?
Like just it changed the whole industry.
Yeah, yeah. If you were to change one thing that would kind of make it better.
I would say giving the power back to the businesses, like that they don't have to rely on big CRMs that recruitment agencies gatekeep. Just disrupting that, like,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, their business is what's getting, some work done. Now, these recruitment agencies can provide great talent, but yeah, giving power back to them,
yeah,
and allowing them to have the same resources and the same data as these recruitment businesses. And if they still want to work with a specialist, because obviously you still need someone to sell a role, then that's
yeah.
fine. But just, yeah, giving the power back to internal
Give the power back. Yeah.
businesses.
You just actually sparked a thought there, because I noticed you did a LinkedIn post, I think it was last week, on your one of the founders who actually
Max
uh,
Market. Yeah.
yeah, and the 2 to 3 stage interview
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
process, and your thoughts around that. Do you want to talk through that? Because I found that really interesting.
So Max Marchione, so I actually used to play soccer with his brother and was in Italy with Max, like this is years ago, and his
Yeah,
brother and my family, and now he's just raised $30 million worth 300 million. Maybe he doesn't even remember who I am, but I don't know, legend. But his
yeah,
view on it was like his recruitment process, because obviously he's building such an incredible team with superpower, is not just looking at a candidate based on the job description. Also, like outside of that, like he says something spiky, something that's they're going to come in And if you hire brilliant talent, they might not even be right for the job description. If it's a brilliant person, exceptional, they're going to be able to do exceptional things within that
Mm.
business, give them that
Yeah.
freedom. So really leaning into that. And his point was saying like, look, if you run like two interviews, um, saying, can you do this, this, and that? Like, yeah, on paper that might be a good fit, but he's saying for that exceptional talent, he needs to like really like understand this person, see what they tick, see them in different environments, not just, in a Zoom meeting, which
Yeah.
is really interesting point with hiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes to show if you see these recruiters saying, oh, 2, 3 interviews, it's like, why are you pushing for that? Is that just the contingency fee? Like, is that what we're pushing here
Mm.
for? We're actually trying to build like
Yeah.
a company. So I guess it kind of comes back to that as well.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely kind of like a balance with it. I definitely don't. I like dragging like a process out because you kind of lose that like it being a two-way process,
Yeah.
but especially when it's kind of one way. Like if we're kind of honest up front with the idea, especially in that scenario when it's really early stage, that person, you need someone that's going to come in and actually have a big impact on the business, delving into just more than your typical, right, we've got this job description, you fit the
Yeah.
bill, and actually digging in a lot deeper, then further stages to uncover that would, and I think it comes down to the planning as well of that
Yeah.
particular, what the steps, knowing what in advance what you're going to be looking to go through to try and uncover those different areas that you probably wouldn't get typically
Yeah.
going through a CV or in a Zoom meeting, as you say.
I mean, I definitely agree. Like, obviously, I think some hires can be quick, but I think, and it's not, like you said, not just one size, not just benefiting the company, but just like
Mm.
really giving the candidate as well to see the company, like inviting them in, seeing if it's going to be right for them as well before making that decision. Because I think, yeah, do you think candidates are complaining about that a lot, or is it recruiters are complaining about it a lot that it's been 2 to 3 years?
So from a candidate perspective, it's kind of seen as jumping through hoops if there's more than kind of three stages.
Yeah.
Like for me, that typically engineering hiring can be a little bit longer because you have a couple of more technical stages in there thrown in. Whereas like if you're typical, say for instance you're hiring a product manager, typically that's a three-stage process. If you exclude the talent, but like say for instance, if I was to hire for a company, you do a talent screening call myself, hiring
Mhm.
manager interview, typically a case study or a functional interview, and then like a values culture kind of alignment. What you tend to find though in these smaller companies, if your friend there has just obviously just raised funding and it's their first hire into the business, for instance, they
Yeah,
typically wouldn't have that mapped out and probably wouldn't know
that's true.
in some cases where to start either, which is also quite interesting because they haven't been told how to interview, they haven't been told how to grow their team. So it's kind of, you got that kind of side of it as well, and it could be that
Fair as
they're
well, yeah.
probably, it's more difficult for someone like that to uncover probably the things that other traits that this person has that's going to fit another aspect of the business. Because it's a difficult one, but yeah, typically. But for what the answer to your question, candidates will, if it's longer than that, and they're asked to go through 5, 6 stages, then it becomes a problem. It's kind of like you're expecting
Yeah.
me to jump through all these hoops, especially if they don't get the role at the end of that.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. If it's like, I guess maybe a more established company when the role
Mm.
is very set out and it's like, here's
Yeah,
what you need to do, and obviously, see if they're a good fit outside the technical.
yeah,
But yeah, potentially with startups like Max is like, because their product, right, is like they're going into areas that are unknown, right? They're
yeah,
truly innovating into something that they don't know can actually work, right?
yeah.
So I guess that's why they would look for like just freakish talent, just geniuses who are just outside everything.
And also, as well, is on the flip side to that, you need someone that's going to appreciate that kind of environment because
Yeah,
that environment isn't for everyone. Like
yeah,
you couldn't get someone from a big corporate coming in. Like typically, I would say never, but typically you wouldn't get someone from a big corporate coming into an environment like that and actually, because there's no process, there's no structure. It's a completely different type of environment and requirement in there.
Mm. And one thing I want to ask you because I had this guy Keenan, friend of mine who I've recently met up in Gold Coast, and he's just been kind of coming around and having a look at what we're doing some sales. Now, he never came from any sales background, but I got to say like, because we've had people on board before who had been in sales, but I really liked dealing with Keenan that he was just giving it a go, had no
Yep,
expectations, had no methods or anything. He was just being himself.
yep.
Which I was really surprised. I was like, oh, you don't have, certain experience. But like, I was wondering for you, if you were going to hire, like, what would that look like, and what would you look for? Someone
Well,
who's got
that's a
way, yeah,
Yeah, for in that scenario there where you can identify and you get a good feel for someone, because basically how I see that is if it's a salesperson and you've got to, so if you put yourself in the client's shoes, like the way
Mhm.
you did there, you go, actually, I can see something here that he's actually got. I can buy into him. I can believe him. Like
Yeah,
that, those sort of traits, like you can't really train. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are kind of, whereas like like the learning a sales methodology or an approach to, like, you can train that, but the
yeah.
things that you've identified there are things that you probably wouldn't be able to find in many people.
And you can almost have a benefit from maybe hiring someone who's less experienced because at least you can just show them the way that, potentially has been working for that business rather than
Yeah,
trying to get them to unlearn something. Because that's,
yeah,
imagine being successful in another business, coming somewhere else and having
yeah,
to change the way you were doing it. Like I would find that
yeah.
really hard.
But if you get the right person with the right drive, the right attitude, personalities come in and like that wants to learn, I really don't think you can't buy that. You know, it's whereas all the other things, systems and processes, you can train them on that. Like, you know what I mean. And those people that want to learn will pick those up quite quickly anyway. You know.
Definitely. I even think I was learning so much from Keenan. I was like,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Just got a good spirit. I'm kind of
Yeah.
higher energy like he is. Like, but
Yeah. No, that's awesome, mate. But no, I've really enjoyed the conversation, mate. Before we go though, can you just give us, like, for the listeners, like, in terms of like where people can reach out to you if they've got any questions in regards to the business, anything like that, or what we spoke about today? Where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me a connection request.
Yep.
Yeah, always happy to chat. You can look on our website, which is just discoverx.au. But yeah, love talking to people in the space and I appreciate you having me on, Adam. It's been awesome.
Awesome.
And I'm keen to see you crush it with your journey as well. Very
Awesome.
excited.
Appreciate it, Jamie. Appreciate your time, mate. All the best with everything.